Here in front of us today is a 2011 Honda Pilot. This Honda Pilot is equipped with a 3.5 liter V6 engine. Today we're going to be pulling this Honda Pilot into the shop to be doing a timing belt and water pump service. If you have a Honda Odyssey, this might also apply to you, as Honda Odyssey is around the same time as this Honda Pilot came with a 3.5 liter. Before we get started, I would like to mention that our website is officially live. If you go to any web browser, type in zhbgarage.com, you will be greeted with our homepage where you can see everything about us, the cars that we've worked on, the services that we provide, and also the merch that has been long awaited, people have been asking us for. Currently available, we have stickers, t-shirts, and work shirts that I'm wearing right here. All merch will be available for purchase on there with many more things to come, so stay tuned.
The first thing I'm going to do is remove the engine cover. So I'm just going to use a pair of needle nose pliers. It has two little clips here in the front. You just give them a little twist, and then it has rubber push-ins in the back. A lot of times the rubber will come with the cover, and you want to normally leave that in the intake because it has a little step on there and you will not be able to get it pushed back in. It'll just squash it all up. So make sure that's in the intake. And then I'm going to take the reservoir for the radiator. I'm going to pop it up and just set it over here out of the way. I'm going to take the reservoir for the power steering off and just set it here. Now that I have both the reservoirs off the bracket, there's two 10 millimeters. I'm going to remove these and get the bracket out of the way just for ease of getting in here. So next I'm going to take the serpentine belt off. So it's got a shock absorber tensioner. So I'm going to use a longer 3/8 drive ratchet. And if you come down in, you don't go to the pulley, you go right here. And that's what we're going to use to take the tension off of the tensioner pulley to get the drive belt off. And I got a 19 millimeter semi-deep socket on here that has a good spacing to come down and get on this tensioner. Kind of like a shock absorber. So it's going to have tension the whole time. You got to bleed it off. So we're going to pull it up and then slip the belt off the power steering pump like so. Be careful your fingers when you come off with the tensioner because it's going to go further than where you started. Then we're just going to snake our belt out of here. So now I'm going to take the power steering pump off. We have a 12 millimeter right here, and there's a 12 millimeter underneath here. Kind of got to sneak in. It's right here about in the center. So I'm going to use a 1/4 inch drive. So this is a longer 1/4 inch drive, and I have a 2-inch extension and then a 12 millimeter shorty socket to get in here. So it's a tight fit to get on this bottom one, but it's right about there. So right about in between these two bolts here on the engine mount. And I like to do this one first because if you leave the other one tight, then most of the time, once you get it broke loose, you can spin it out the rest of the way by hand because this bolt is holding the pulley up tight in place and it's all lined up. So if you can't get it to spin with your fingers, you can always put the extension back on it. That's what's nice to have the knurled extension, so it gives you something to grab onto to spin it. But I'm able to get it with my fingers now that I got it broke loose. So I got the lower one out. Now I can get to the other bolt here on the power steering. So it's easier if you unplug this solenoid here for the butterfly and the intake. So if you unplug this harness here, you get a little more room. I'm gonna get this over here to sneak the pump by. We're gonna get it, and we're just gonna set it up top here on the intake. Kind of keep an eye on the reservoir because it will leak out of this cap. This cap's not 100% sealed, it just slides on there. So next, we're gonna take the two cam covers off for the cam sprockets, the rear one and then the front one right here. So they each have 5 bolts. They're all 10 millimeter. For this, I like to use a short 1/4 inch drive ratchet, and you can see the difference in the length. And then I like to use a semi-deep 10 millimeter. If you have the option to use a little electric ratchet, that works also. Over on this side here on the top, we have number 3. It would make it easier to get to the other bolts if you take this 10 millimeter out of the harness right here. So I'm gonna pop this one out. And we can scoot our harness over a little bit. So this is number 3. So I'm gonna take it up really quick. I'm gonna take the tensioner off. We're gonna do a couple things on the bottom. So I'm gonna stop on the way up here. I'm gonna take the wheel off. So if you're doing this in your driveway or something on the ground, just really would have to jack up the passenger side and then put a jack stand underneath it so you can take this tire off. It just makes it a lot easier. So we're gonna pop this tire off really quick. And these are all 22 millimeter. So normally there's a plastic cover right here that would cover the filter, but a lot of times you take it in to get oil filters and stuff done, people don't take the clips out and they peel it back, and then over time it winds up breaking. This has more room already, but we're gonna go up a little bit more and you get a better look here. So we're gonna take this tensioner off. This is a little shock absorber I was talking about right here, and there's an idler pulley up here. It's all one unit. So I'm gonna take this bolt out right here, 17 millimeter, and then there's a 12 millimeter down here on the shock absorber, and then this whole unit comes out together. So I'm gonna get the 12 on the tensioner first, then I'm gonna use a wrench to get in here for the 17. It's gonna be tight. It's gonna be tight for sure. But once you get it broke loose, it should come off by hand the rest of the way. And then once you get that bolt out, it's easier if you get the whole assembly. Will come out the bottom here. Now's a good time to check these and see if you want to replace them. So give them a spin. See how they sound? They're quiet. These ones seem pretty good. This one has oil residue on it, but it's not from this. It's got another leak that we're gonna take care of. So now I can get the other bolt now with the tensioner idler out of the way. And then now there's one in the center, is the last 10. And then when you pull up the cover, it comes up and out because the bottom kind of locks in to the lower part of the timing cover. So all 5 of the bolts, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all are the same. They all have a little shoulder on here, a little step, and they bottom out so they don't crush the cover. On some of the newer models, the outside ones would be this style, but then this center bolt, they changed it to this style. But this is an older deal that they're all the same. What I like to do is I like to put it upside down and I'll put the 5 bolts inside of it, and then I know these are the bolts for that cover. So now I'm going to do the same on the rear cover. I'm just going to come in here. So the difference on the rear cover here is the rear has this harness. So you got to pop this harness out of the cover. And once you do that, just push it up so it's above and just tuck it behind the cover. And then this one will come out the same way. Pull the top out and then pull it up, and it unlocks it from the lower portion of the timing cover. So next I like to turn the engine over now. I like to get it on top dead center. So that's another reason why I like to take the tire off, because I like to use a long extension. So we got 19 millimeter for the crank. Got a couple extensions here. Get me away from the wheel well and everything, kind of get me out a little bit. So now we're gonna look at our cams. So now we gotta rotate the engine around to get the timing marks lined up. So this is the spot on the cover, the engine cover that we're lining up to, and then we're lining up this mark on the sprocket. And you see, if you look down at the crank down here, it looks like there's a timing mark on the cover right here. That's not the timing mark. That's not what we're using. We're gonna use this one on the back side. Right here, there's a raised spot, a little pointy spot on the cover. So we wanna line this up with the crankshaft. Okay, you see how now that I rolled the engine over, so we have a line, a red mark, and a line. Don't pay attention to those. We don't care about those. If you look back a little bit further, there's a white mark right here by itself. That white mark is what we want to line up right here on the timing cover. So I need to rotate the engine a little bit more. It looks like we're pretty lined up. And if we look here at the front camshaft, so now we have our timing mark right here. You can see in our cover, a little divot right there. And if you come straight across, if you use that sprocket or that tooth on the pulley, that we're lined up with our camshaft sprocket. So we're lined up here straight up. So our timing mark's good here. So then we're gonna come back to our rear camshaft. So on the rear cam, we have our timing mark right here. It's highlighted. If you come straight across, it's the same deal. Follow that one sprocket. You come over, marks right here on the cover. So our timing's lined up right now. If you have a hard time seeing it, you can always use a little mirror. Get this harness up out of the way. I mean, it's gonna be a little bit of a chore, but you can come in like so, make sure you're lined up. So before I go back up with it, I'm gonna have to take this part of the engine mount that bolts to the front of the engine here out, because we're doing the water pump also, and this goes in conjunction with the water pump. So now I'm going to take this 10 millimeter bolt out that holds this harness bracket down. And now we're going to take the 2 14 millimeter bolts out. When you take these out, the engine's going to sag down, but it's not going to go anywhere crazy. It's just going to drop down a little bit. Now that the tension is off of this bracket here, there's a 17 millimeter bolt that runs through here. So I'm going to take that out now. So I'm using my long ratchet. I got a semi-deep 17. So now I'm going to break it loose. Once you get it broke loose, you should be able to wiggle it and get the bolt out by hand. A little too tight to get it by hand. So I'm gonna use my short ratchet. Give me a little more room to travel here. Get it broke loose some more. Slide the bolt out. And this bolt has a little dampener on it, a little shock absorber, harmonic dampener. And then now we have the bolt out. We can slide up the upper bracket. And this has a little 10 millimeter ground on here. So I'm just gonna take the 10 off right here and leave this bracket and the ground in the car. Now we can pull our upper mount bracket out. I'm just gonna set it on top here. So this part here needs to come off. So there's 3 14 millimeters. So this one here is pretty easy to get to. You can see it. And then there's one on the bottom here in the center, and then one all the way in the bottom. This is gonna be a little tricky. So I got my long 1/4 inch ratchet here, and I got a 14 millimeter stubby socket on it. And I like to do the hard one first because everything's held in place. You get on the head of it, it's gonna be tight, and then get it worked out to the point where you can grab it with your fingers. And we got it loose enough. I think we can get it this way by hand. So now we got this bolt all the way out, so you can't get it out by itself. It's got to come out with the mount. So now we're going to do the next one here. That's number 2. We have number 3 on the bottom here in the center. You could get this bottom one from the bottom. It's just easier to do it right here. So now we have all the bolts out of it, but we can't take that out yet because the lower timing cover is over the top of it. This harness bracket is on top of it, so in a sense it's pinched in there, so we can't get it out. But now it is all loose. Now we're gonna go up with the vehicle and finish it on the bottom. So now I'm gonna take the pulley off. I have the luxury of using an impact. So 19 millimeter like we used earlier. If you don't have an impact, these bolts, if it's the first time this has been done, even if it's been done, this bolt will be very tight. But factory, if this has never been done, these are extremely tight. and there's a tool that goes in here, and it's a holder, and you can go socket through the center to hold the crankshaft. Normally with an impact, you can zap it loose. So we're gonna come on here, we're gonna keep an eye on the pulley, kind of give it a hold, make sure it doesn't rotate, and see if we can get this bolt out. So the dampener bolt was extremely tight, just like I explained. I just got done saying. So this is the tool that I just mentioned, and you can see that it is bent. It's not designed to be like that. This is normally supposed to be straight, but sometimes these bolts are so tight that when you hold this and loosen it, this gets bent. So it's designed to go on here like so, holds the pulley in place. You put a tool on here to hold it. The configuration, what I'm gonna do is I gotta rotate the engine back a little bit. So I'm gonna come back here. I got an extension and a socket, 1/2-inch drive that I'm going to slide over it. Put it on the control arm, make sure that's in the crank. I like to give it a little tap. Make sure that it is fully seated. So hopefully we have it held in place right there. We got our breaker bar on here. We are going to be going to the left. Stay in a position that if it comes apart, you don't get hit or you don't go flying. So when you have it all set up, you want to take all the slop out of it, and then you just want to give it a jerk. And hopefully you snap the bolt and break it loose. So prepare yourself in case this comes off, you don't go flying on the ground. So we're gonna take all the tension out and give it a pop. Oh, man. Oh, that thing is tight. All right, so we got the next step bigger of a breaker bar here, a little massive guy. So we're gonna try this so we don't have to get so much pop to it. Oh, there it goes. Man, that thing was tight. All right, so now, before we go any further, now I'm going to use a mirror, and I'm gonna come up here and look at my timing marks because we moved the crankshaft. So now we are going to come back up onto our timing marks. So now we are back lined up on top dead center. Now that it is broke loose, I can go back to the impact. I should just zap it free. Now that we got the bolt out, the pulley will just slide off. Make sure you take a note of your keyway. It should stay there, but just verify it can come off. So this is a bolt right here that I was talking about that goes into that engine mount bracket. That's why you can't pull the bracket out yet, but this is loose. We're gonna take all the timing cover bolts out now and get this timing cover, lower timing cover off. So these are all 10 millimeters. There's one over here. So now I'm going to pull the cover off. Wiggle here, comes up. And you can see here that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bolts. And then when we have our cover here, there's a little guide here, I guess you call it, on the crankshaft. And we want to take that off. And we want to keep that with the cover. I like to set it in the cover. So now I know before I put this cover on there, I need to put this back on and I don't forget it. So we'll put the bolts in the cover. If you want to verify your timing one last time before you go any further, there's a dot right here on the pulley, and then right up here is a mark. So those want to be lined up. So now that we know that our timing is lined up, we're at top dead center, we're going to reach up, we're going to take out our bracket here for our front of engine, passenger side of car engine mount. And it has the 3 bolts. We're just going to leave them in there and set that to the side. So we're going to take the 2 10s off of the tensioner. 2. Oh. Hold please. So if you wanted to reuse this, you could put it in a vise or a pair of pliers, slowly push this piston back in and put a pin in here to reuse it, but we're gonna be replacing this. Now that the tensioner is off, we can get our belt out of the way, so we'll work our belt off. And the bottom here is just gonna slide, you gotta slide it straight out, like so. Supposedly this thing has been replaced once before. It doesn't look too bad. It has somewhere on the back of it, but this is really aged. You can go like this and the cogs, it'd be weather cracking in there. This belt actually looks pretty good. So now we're gonna take off our tensioner assembly here. We got 114 right here that it pivots off of. Oh my gosh, okay. Once you have it broke loose, it should come out fairly easy. The tensioner here, to note where it pivots off of, is that it's going to have this sleeve in here. So just note that it doesn't get stuck or anything. The new one should come with it, but just pay attention to the sleeve because that's what it pivots off of, because this bolt pushes on the sleeve here on the outer, and then that allows it to rotate. And now we're gonna take off the idler pulley right here, 12 millimeter also. Same thing, just use a wrench. Break it loose. All right, now we finally got it loose enough. You can get it by hand. Grab the bolt and the idler pulley. So next we're gonna do the water pump on here. We're gonna remove it. So we're gonna make a mess with the coolant. You can either drain the petcock, which I think it's a toss-up which one will be more of a mess. So we're just gonna go with taking off the water pump. We're gonna try to do controlled. So we have a pan here to catch the coolant, and ideally it's gonna come down, catch it all. So we're gonna take out, they're all 10 millimeters. We're gonna remove the lowers first, try to direct the water flow. Then I'm gonna come in here, I'm gonna try to pop this corner right here. Doesn't matter. I don't know which one's a bigger one to get. This one? So now that we made our mess, taking our last 2 bolts out, we're gonna grab the water pump. That's why it was glued on there. Somebody used some silicone. I don't recommend using silicone on the water pump O-ring. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the 3 that incorporate into that engine mount. So that's why we had to take the engine mount out of the way. So we got the floor here, our mess cleaned up. Got the front of the engine all cleaned up. I just used a razor blade to clean the water pump surface here where they had silicone on it. Scraped it sideways, you don't dig into it. Cleaned up the mating surface, blew out all the holes. Nice to have an air compressor if able. Just cleaned up all the coolant that ran down the front. The coolant's not gonna bother the crank seal or anything. It's not leaking now, so we're not gonna worry about replacing it. Oh yeah, one more thing I wanted to show is that bolt we took out for the harness. It goes into the water pump, so that's another reason why we have to take it out. But now that we have it all cleaned and prepped, we'll go over here and I'll show you the parts that we're gonna use. So we got the Asian kit, and the part number is a TKH-002, and it comes with everything you're going to need. The water pump, it's got instructions. We have a new timing belt, the new tensioner. It's the new tensioner pulley, and you can see it does not come with that bushing I showed earlier, so I'll show you that to prep it here in a second. We have our new tensioner already loaded with our grenade pin, so this is what you could do on the old one if you wanted to reuse it. You collapse it down, you put a pin in here. We have our idler pulley, little sticker you put on under the hood that you can remember, put the date and mileage so you know when you replace your timing belt, if you ever sell the car or just for reference. Then we have our new water pump. Comes with a new O-ring, and you can see there's a couple dowels to locate it, because when you put this in there over here, and I believe on both sides, here and here, there's a little rubber sealer on the cover. So when you put this in, you're gonna have to kind of push up on it, and you wanna push it onto the dowels. So because it is getting scooted, that I put a little dab of like a trans gel or silicone on here, just so you don't grab the seal as it goes up and roll it out. It lets it slide up in there. Then once I have a little film all the way around it, I'll make sure to run my finger around it. You see it's got little locks where it holds the rubber in place, the O-ring in place. Then I want to push my finger around and feel that it's seated all the way around. So here and here is that rubber that I was talking about that seals it. You got to push it up in there when you get it on the dowels. We already verified our O-ring, so just carefully come up in here. I want to go a little bit at an angle and want to push it up onto the dowel pins like so. Once you have it flat, you see how it goes up to the block. Now it's flat on the dowel pins. We're gonna get our original water pump bolts. Even though their dowel pin aligns everything, you wanna make sure all the bolts are started before you tighten any of them down. So now I have all my bolts started. I'm gonna snug them down carefully, not to over torque them. Now I'm going to check them by torquing them. I'm going to use a inch-pound torque wrench. This spec on this is 8.7 foot-pounds, and if you convert that over to inch-pounds, it's 103.2 inch-pounds. So I'm going to round up and do 104 inch-pounds. I'm going to do it in somewhat a circular motion, so I'm going to start here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. So now we have them all torqued. So now I'm going to install the new idler pulley with the original bolt. Then just a little note that it has a step here on this side and not on this side. If you put it in backwards, not gonna spin, not gonna be too happy. So the raised spot goes to the block. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna snug it down with this. I'm gonna pull the pulley up to the bolt because that's what centers it. Snug down, we'll go ahead and torque it, 33 foot-pounds. All right, now we're gonna do our tensioner pulley. So you can see these are identical, same deal. We're gonna reuse our bolt, but like I showed you when I took this apart, that it has this little bushing in the inside of it here in the center. You can see the new one doesn't come with it. So I like to take a little bit of wheel bearing grease and just coat the inside of this here where it's gonna pivot on both sides. Then I'm gonna take this little bushing out. I'm gonna clean it up, take our little extra wheel bearing grease here, put a little dab on this bad boy, and then this goes in from the back side. So we're going to put it in, and then the extra grease, see how it kind of bunches up here, is going to go against the outside lip here. So go up, give it a little spin. Anything that's poking out, just give it a little wipe. You don't need too excessive of grease. And then on the front here, a little bit pokes out, but our bolt is going to go on there, gives our bolt a little lubricant. So this is going to pivot here off the water pump. So just when you put this on, just make sure to move it as you tighten it because it can bind. So make sure it goes all the way on. You're going to run it down by hand here. Got the bolt snug. Okay, it's not bound up, so now we're gonna go ahead and torque it. Do the same, 33 foot-pounds. So we have our new tensioner here. I'm not gonna install it yet, because if you watch the pulley here, and if I just slide it up to where the bolts would line up, see how it moves the tensioner up? So that's gonna make it more difficult to put the belt on. So we're gonna leave the tensioner off until we get the belt on. So now we're gonna lower the car back down so we can verify the upper timing marks. So we have our new belt here. You want to avoid doing any crazy bending like we did on the other one when we were showing if there's any cracks. You don't want to twist this thing up any weird direction. So there's no markings on this belt at all that lines up any marks on the cam sprockets or crank or anything. So this belt can go on any way. And the lettering doesn't matter. It can go on this way and this way. Just the way I do it. For some reason, my ADD, I don't know. I always want to read the letters. So I always put the letters towards me. The tensioner is on the back side. So you want to start the crankshaft and go around the front cam and take all the slack out of the belt as you go. And if you remember, the crank has that little guide, I guess you would call it, on there, which makes it tight around the crankshaft. So we can come this way around the idler. So we know we got a snug fit on the crankshaft that we don't need to worry about that thing jumping time. So now we're going to go around our idler pulley, come around our cam. So we get this lined up on the teeth. Then you want to make sure that it's in the cogs. Continue to run it around, keep the slack out of it. We're going to go down around our water pump. See, the water pump has that step on there, so you need a little more slack to get around it. And then our back pulley has a step on it also. That's why you need all the room you can get. That's why we leave the tensioner off. Now we want to get it on the rear cam shaft. So go around, then we're going to come around, and we're going to come over the tensioner. And you can see when we're at the tensioner right now, you can see it's already a snug fit. We got to get it all the way on this, over this lip on this rear cam in order to fit it over the tensioner. You can see it just barely makes it over. So if that, or the tensioner pulley, I mean. So if that tensioner was on there and this tensioner pulley was moved up, it would make it really tight to cram over the side of it. By leaving the tensioner off, the pulley drops down enough that it's easier to get the belt over it. So now that we have the belt on, because of the cogs, there's not enough slack for it to jump time or anything. So now we're just going to go around, verify that we have all the slack out of the belt, which more than likely we do because we're able to get it on all the way. Oh, we want to check it here so we don't like this. So we see this here, so we gotta check that. See right here, it's not on all the way. So we gotta get that under the pulley here. So that might change our belt a little bit. See, it wasn't all the way tucked in. So that might be make it a tooth off. So yep, see we have slop now. So we need to come around. So this here probably needs to be moved a tooth. So we need to take it off of here, pop this belt over. Make sure it's all the way on the pulley. Now we have it back on, so double check. Make sure we don't have no crazy amount of slack. The only place we're gonna have slack is back here because we'll just put the tensioner in it. This is going to pivot up, take the slack out. So we're just going to verify our timing marks. So you can see we have the mark on our pulley, and it's right at a tooth. So if we just follow that tooth straight back, it lines up right with our cover, that groove in our cover. So our front cam is lined up. Same deal on the rear cam. We have our mark right here, our line. If you follow it all the way back, then it lines up with the cover. The mark is right underneath right here. So we got our new tensioner here. I'm gonna kind of block some of your space here. The bolt's already in it. I'm gonna push this down to the block. Then we're gonna push the tensioner up here to line up our upper bolt, get that started. And now we have the upper one started. It kind of pivots and you can push it up to line up the bottom one. And these are the same deal. We're gonna torque these to 104 inch-pounds. Everything's nice and snug, I like it. So now we have it all set up. We're just gonna pull the pin. So now the hydraulic tensioner is moved out, no more slop. Now I'm gonna take the crank bolt, I'm gonna put it in here. Crank pin, whatever you wanna call it, is recessed, so it's not gonna interfere with the washer. So we're gonna put the crank bolt in it. We're gonna take our 19 millimeter. We're gonna do it from the bottom because we have our mark here. We're gonna watch this mark. It needs to come around 2 revolutions because if we do 1, the crankshaft is 180 out from the cams. So we need to do 2 revolutions of the crank is 1 revolution of the cam. Turn it always, rotation of engine. This one spins clockwise. So here's our dot right here. So if you make a line up this tooth, we need to go a little bit more because we want to line up with this arrow. So we're going to bump it ever so slightly. I would say that's lined up. So we're going to drop the vehicle back down. Now we have the vehicle back down. So we have our mark on our cam gear. Go straight across. Lines up right there with our cover. So our front cam is lined up. So now we have our rear cam. We have a mark right here on our sprocket, which lines up with the tooth on the cam. We go straight back. Lines up right here with the notch in the cover. So our rear cam is lined up. So that's how you change the timing belt on the Honda Pilot. Just a few last things is the engine mount. The 3 bolts on it get torqued to 33 foot-pounds. Don't forget to put on your little guide on your crankshaft. The beveled part goes to the timing belt. Don't put it on that way. And then the crank pulley gets torqued to 47 foot-pounds, and then you mark it, and then you're gonna do additional 60 degrees. So make sure you like, share, subscribe. Come on back for the next one.